What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Keeping Up with Commanders. I'm your host, Mason Kenahan, and this is the week. This is the week we've all been waiting for. The Commanders, the Lions, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. in the divisional round. It is, in my opinion, the best week of football in the entire season. Year in and year out, the divisional round always delivers, and I expect it to deliver once again, especially in this matchup. This is going to be a fun podcast because we've got the Commanders coming into Detroit, pretty big underdogs at this point. I think it's probably 9 or 10 points. But I'm here to tell you, no, some people say good teams win, great teams cover, right? And that's what I'm feeling in this one for the Washington Commanders. So it's going to be a pretty fun episode breaking this down. We're going to go after we look at the injury report, we're going to go Washington's offense against the Lions defense, and then flip the sides of the ball and look at Detroit's offense and how Washington can limit Detroit's offense, or Washington's defense can limit Detroit's offense, because let's be honest, I don't think Washington's defense is stopping them. So let's just jump right into the injury report for this week. This week it was announced on Monday, or Dan Quinn said on Monday, that Jordan McGee was the only player that he was concerned about missing this game. McGee re-aggravated a hamstring injury that he suffered a couple weeks ago that he's been out for a good portion of the season with during that wild card game, and McGee is out for this game as well. Bobby Wagner, star linebacker for Washington, was a DNP on Tuesday and Wednesday. He will be good to go. He was dealing with an ankle injury this week. We'll see how much that affects him. I think it could be pretty big, I would say. I know Wagner was practicing on Thursday, but an ankle injury going up against a very good tight end in Sam Laporta. Already, Washington's linebackers are not that great in coverage compared to some of their other roles, and I'm not entirely sure if I'm looking forward to that matchup between Laporta and Wagner. In other news, Michael Walker, another linebacker for Washington, and Colson Yankoff are questionable for this game. Michael Walker is dealing with an illness. Colson Yankoff is dealing with a hamstring injury. Cleveland Farrell, Jamison Crowder, Brennan Coleman, and like 5 other people also did not have full weeks of practice, but they will all be good to go. All of them were full participants on Thursday, so all of them will be good to go. As for Detroit, David Montgomery and Terrion Arnold, 2 key pieces for this Detroit Lions team. Montgomery, one half of the Sonic and Knuckles backfield. I forgot what they nicknamed it. And then of Terrion Arnold, the rookie first-round pick for the Detroit Lions, in a secondary that has been definitely beaten up with injuries. Terrion Arnold missed that wild card game against. Oh, well, no, he didn't miss it because Detroit did not have a wild card game, but he was injured, I believe, in the Minnesota game in Week 18, and he will be good to go against the Washington Commanders. In other news for Detroit, starting right guard Kevin Zeitler is out in this game, and this could be pretty massive for Detroit. Zeitler has been their starting right guard this entire season. He is out with an injury, and getting the start will be Christian Mahogany, the rookie 6th-round pick for the Detroit Lions. So that is something that potentially Washington could take advantage of. Zeitler is out, and Mahogany, the 6th-round rookie, who does have some experience so far this season playing, will be in for Zeitler. So it's a day 3 rookie in a big spot in the season who doesn't have a lot of experience. That could be something that Washington could take advantage of. And it'll be interesting to see how well Detroit will run the ball to the right side. They still have Penei Sewell out there at right tackle, but how well will they be able to run it to the right side in this one? That'll be interesting to see. Linebacker Pat O'Connor for the Lions is also out in this one. And then Ennis Rakestraw Jr., their other rookie cornerback they took in the 2nd round, he's questionable with an illness and a hamstring injury. So the injuries are still there for the Detroit Lions in that secondary in this one. So, all right. With that being said, we look at Washington's team, pretty healthy, pretty much as healthy you can be at this point in the season. Jonathan Allen fully back from his injury. Deron Payne, even though he dislocated his finger in last week's game, he's good to go. And then Bobby Wagner, even though he didn't practice 2/3 of the practices this week, he will be good to go for Washington. So Washington's defense is pretty healthy. As far as Detroit, their defense is still a little bit banged up, and Kevin Zeitler being out could be pretty impactful in this one. Or not insanely impactful, but like definitely could make an impact in this game. So let's dive into the preview show for this pod. We'll start Washington's offense against the Lions defense. Washington's offense. We'll start with the good news. I love this matchup for Washington. Washington's offense against the Lions defense. Washington matches up very well against this Lions defense. Fourth in EPA per play this season for Washington. Of course, they've been one of the best offenses in all of football throughout pretty much this entire year. Fifth in rushing EPA per play, which is also top 5. It's been one of the best units all season long, except recently. So recently, it has fallen off in terms of the running backs. We've not seen a lot of production coming from Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler in the backfield, which will be interesting to see because I think Washington could run the ball pretty well on a unit that has ranked 24th in rushing EPA for the Lions defense since Aleem McNeil, their starting Pro Bowl, All-Pro defensive tackle, went down with a torn ACL in Week 15. So the Lions are vulnerable up front, and I'm not really worried about this front four for Washington. Zadarius Smith is not what he used to be, among others. Again, no Aiden Hutchinson, no James Houston. I mean, this Lions front four has definitely been beaten up, and I think Washington could take advantage and try and run down the middle in this one. But of course, those running backs have struggled recently. The reason why Washington's rushing offense has ranked so high still is because of Jayden Daniels and his legs. Daniels has been one of the best quarterbacks using his legs this season. He leads the NFL in rushing yards. He as for quarterback, and then he also broke the rookie record for quarterback in rushing yards as well. So Daniels has been the leading rusher for Washington, I believe, in each of their last 4 games. That's how important Daniels' legs are to this offense. And it's not just the design runs that Cliff runs with him. We've seen it. It's oh, hey, no one's open downfield. Let me go out and let me pick up 4 yards, 5 yards on first down and just stay ahead of the chains. That's what I love most about Jayden Daniels. So right now, and the groove that he's in is that he's willing to pick up those 4 or 5 yards even on the early downs. And instead of taking a big play and potentially having a turnover or an incompletion and getting stuck in a 2nd and 10, he just picks up manageable yardage each time, makes the next play easier than what it could be. Like a 2nd and 8, he'll go ahead. If he doesn't like what he sees downfield, he'll run and he'll pick up 4 yards, makes it a manageable 3rd and 4. Instead of taking a sack or throwing an incompletion into a tight window, potentially getting tipped into the air and intercepted. He's been so smart this season at taking what the defense has given him, and I think this could really be beneficial for Washington in this game because the Lions defense ranks bottom 5 against quarterback runs this season in efficiency. They're not a good team. When they played Lamar Jackson back in, I can't remember what week it was, but when the Ravens blew out the Detroit Lions, and it could really, I mean, we saw the damage that Derrick Henry did to that Lions defense and what Lamar Jackson did to that Lions defense. If Brian Robinson gets going, that would be massive for this Washington team because it brings an element to this offense that has not been there in the last few weeks. And even though this Washington offense has succeeded in the last few weeks and against Tampa and whatever, they have still struggled to run the football. It's been a big struggle for them over the last month or so. And if you can bring that element back in this game, which they should be able to because this rushing defense for Detroit is not that good, it's something that I'm looking at potentially being a weakness and being something that Washington and Cliff Kingsbury can exploit in this game. Because if you get Brian Robinson going, it just brings another added element to an offense that already has one of the best playmakers in the entire sport, who happens to be a rookie, but still one of the best playmakers in in the entire sport. Plus, a downfield passing attack with one of the best contested catch receivers in the entire sport. So just if they're able to run the ball, it opens things up so much more. Running the ball, when I say running the ball, like running the ball with the running backs, because again, Jayden has been great running the ball so far, but if you're able to run the ball up the middle, pick up 4 or 5 yards that way, it opens up the play action game. And going up against a secondary that does not have a lot of experience, has kind of just been thrown around into positions and playing more than they should be playing with all those injuries on that back half. Washington could take advantage. So that is something that I am looking at. And as far as Jayden Daniels being able to run the ball on his own and scrambling, I think he should be able to continue that. Again, Detroit has been one of the worst teams against rushing quarterbacks this season. The only thing that I am slightly concerned about is that they have been one of the worst defenses against rushing quarterbacks without Alex Anzalone, their starting middle linebacker. Anzalone came back for the game against the Minnesota Vikings, and he made an impact in that one. I know Sam Darnold is not the same as a Jayden Daniels, right? But still, I wonder. I mean, you're going to get an upgrade at linebacker, someone who can go sideline to sideline like Anzalone, and that could be a factor. Will they spy? How much will they spy Jayden Daniels? And his legs have been so crucial on alleviating the pressure that's on this offensive line, because we saw it in the Tampa game, how at the beginning of the game, right, Jane was under so much pressure. Todd Bowles loved to blitz, and he loved to bring more than 4 guys a lot at the beginning of the game. And Jayden Daniels was under pressure, but he was still being able to deliver and make big plays while he was under pressure. He was able to roll out, and he was starting to pick up those 5-6 yards that I mentioned that just makes the next down so much easier. And over time, that's how Washington created those long drives, 10, 11 play, double-digit drives in that game, and was able to control the clock is because of Jayden Daniels' legs. So Todd Bowles then adjusts and he puts spies on Jayden Daniels. And so against a weaker offensive line that Washington has, especially those tackles, being able to force, I guess in this scenario, Tampa Bay to have a spy on Jayden Daniels, that's one extra guy you don't have to account for in terms of blitzing. And it gives Jayden Daniels more time in the pocket. I wonder how Detroit and Aaron Glenn will go about spying on Jayden Daniels, because if they take away his legs, right? Jayden Daniels has been a great passer this season. We've seen it week in and week out. He's been able to deliver. And I mean, that just also helps the offensive line overall. If you're going to spy, if you're going to sit back and kind of just watch Jayden Daniels' eyes, that's one less person that'll be rushing the passer and ultimately help out the offensive line, because there'll be one less person they have to account for. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. If I had to imagine, I think Aaron Glenn definitely, Alex Anzalone, someone like that will definitely be spying Jayden Daniels for a majority of this game. I'm not entirely worried about it, because I still think Jayden Daniels, again, one of the best playmakers at the quarterback position we've seen this season. And I think he can definitely make a guy miss. We saw it against Kalijah Kancey on that 3rd and 2 or whatever to clinch the game. So last week. So I'm not really worried about it, but it'll be interesting to see how Aaron Glenn goes about spying Jayden Daniels, and if he actually even brings pressure, because Jayden has been one of the best quarterbacks this season while under pressure. So it's been crazy what this rookie has been able to do, but there's a lot of it is going to be on him, whether it's through the air or on the ground. Again, it'd be great if Brian Robinson or Austin Eckler or Chris Rodriguez or someone will be able to break away for some big runs on the ground and make the linebackers forced to account for the running backs. But it's not been able to happen over the last month. And this offense is really so reliant on Jayden and what Jayden can do. It is going to be hard for Washington's offense to keep up with the Lions' offense, but I feel like they're going to be one of the best. They're going to put up a lot of points in this one against this Lions defense. They match up really well. Another stat that is going to be beneficial for Washington is also a little bit of a conflict there, but the Lions defense is bottom 5 against no huddle in this season. The Commanders have ran no huddle more than 600 times this season, which is by far the most out of any team this season, and is one of the highest amounts or percentages ever. Like Cliff Kingsbury and this offense has run no huddle a ton. We saw it last week against Tampa Bay. We saw it before, but it also it could be beneficial against this Lions defense because if you run no huddle, it keeps the Lions players out there on the field. They can't substitute, and more than likely you can wear down this Lions defense that way. But if you do go no huddle and you do go at a quicker pace, you are giving the Lions offense more time with the football. So that's kind of a conflict there. Last week against Tampa Bay, Washington ran no huddle at times, but still they were able to drain the clock with long drives, with multiple plays. And it's just being able to balance that, just like they did last week. Just taking control of possession. And if you win the possession battle in this game, there is a good chance you're going to have a good chance at winning this game. But yeah, so Washington's offense, they should be able to have success against this Lions defense. I'm excited for this game and what this offense can do because we've seen this Washington offense do it against a lot of really good defenses this season. And the Lions defense definitely in recent weeks have not been great. They let up 34 points against the 49ers. They let up 17, which against the Bears, which is still a good amount there. The only game in the last month and a half that they looked good against was against Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings, which was their last game of the regular season. So, I mean, you can look at it as Sam Darnold kind of just held onto the ball too long, and once Sam Darnold is under pressure, it's kind of over. But look at it that way, or if you want to look at it as, hey, Alex Anzalone coming back for this defense and starting a middle linebacker was huge for them, and they were able to kind of settle in, and this defense is starting to get rolling again with all these backups. So that is the Washington offense against the Detroit defense. Ultimately, the Washington offense should have a ton of success against Detroit. I expect this to be a shootout. These are two pretty bad defenses, and let's just flip sides of the ball because that was all the good news. Now to the other side where it's kind of flip-flopped. The Lions offense against Washington's defense. The Lions offense has been top of the league and explosive plays and I mean pretty much everything. It's been one of the best units in all of football. Pretty much every offensive metric, the Lions offense ranks one place higher than Washington. It is explosive. They can beat defenses in many ways. Jahmyr Gibbs in the backfield has been on an absolute tear in recent weeks. Last week or 2 weeks ago against Minnesota in Week 18, 139 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns on the ground, 31 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown. He had 117 yards and a touchdown against San Francisco, 109 yards and a touchdown against Chicago. The X factor in this one will be stopping Jahmyr Gibbs. Washington did a good job last week against Tampa Bay and limiting Bucky Irving for about 3 quarters. Bucky did get going towards the end of that game, but it was, again, too late in that second half, or like it was too late for Tampa Bay's offense, and they didn't really get on the field that much in that second half. But Washington's going to be able to going to have to do it again against Jahmyr Gibbs, and Gibbs is a lot better of a running back than Bucky Irving. So Gibbs has been on an absolute tear in recent weeks. Washington's defense, one of the worst rushing defenses this season. It's going to be not so good, and I guess this is kind of good for Washington for David Montgomery coming back because Montgomery should be taking snaps away from Gibbs, even though Montgomery himself is a great running back. So, I mean, I'd rather have Montgomery on the field than Jahmyr Gibbs at this point, but still, 2 very good running backs, that two-headed monster in that backfield for Detroit. Going to be very hard to stop for this Washington run defense. Again, these linebackers have been great against the run, Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu, but again, I mean, if they run it up the middle, not sure how much I trust Jonathan Allen, Jerron Payne, Johnny Newton to stop the run right now. And then, yeah, pretty much if you these explosive plays that the Lions are able to generate, how will this defense be able to bounce back off those explosive plays on the ground? In terms of the secondary, I'm actually feeling slightly confident against this Lions passing game. Now, Jared Goff has been one of the best quarterbacks this season in the National Football League. His pressure to sack rate is down low, I think bottom 10. His turnover worthy play rate is even like middle of the league. and his big time throw rate is like just below Jayden Daniels. So I mean, Jared Goff has been a great quarterback, but he's been supported by a very good run game. I really think it starts in the run game for Washington. If they're able to stop Jahmyr Gibbs and force Jared Goff to pass the ball, that's the best chance you're going to have. If you force the Lions into these passing downs, like obvious passing situations, which is going to be hard because you're not playing 3 down ball against this Detroit offense. You're playing 4 down ball. They're going to go for it every fourth down, or you got to expect that they're going to go for it every fourth down. So it's going to be tough to stop because similar to Washington's aggressiveness, we all know about Dan Campbell's aggressiveness as a game decision maker and all that. So it'll be a tough unit to stop because you're gonna have to stop them 4 times really instead of 3. But if you can somehow force them into the obvious passing situations, force Jared Goff to pass the football, I think this secondary, I have surprisingly good confidence in the secondary to stop this passing attack. Maybe this comes back to bite me, but you look at the matchups, right? You have on the outside Mikey Sanders still and Marshawn Lattimore against Jamison Williams and whoever I'm forgetting, Tim Patrick, maybe, whoever that wide receiver 3 is. And then on the inside, I expect Amon-Ra St. Brown to play more in the slot in this game against this Washington team. And I like my chances with Noah Igbenogany in the slot. Now, Igbenogany has been one of the most underrated corners in the National Football League this season. I have not heard many like podcasts talk about this guy in this matchup against ARSB because Igbenogany has been, I mean, if you look at the charts between slot corners this season, he's been kind of in the top right in a lot of different charts, which is the good thing. It's good. He is well, he's I believe like the yards allowed is in the top 5 this season among cornerbacks. Forced incompletion rate is pretty high as well. So Igbenogany has been surprisingly good for this Washington team. Again, he's going to be a free agent this offseason. I wonder if Washington will re-sign him because I mean he's been good for them. But going up against a very good slot receiver and Amon-Ra St. Brown, it'll be a tough matchup. But I mean, this is going to be 2 very good players this season going up against each other, and I mean it's tough, but hopefully Igbenogany is going to be able to limit ARSB. On the outside, Lattimore's hamstring against Jamison Williams will be not fun. I don't think if Lattimore lines up 1-on-1 with Jamison Williams, I think Williams could burn him pretty quickly. So I'd expect Sanders still to be in coverage on Williams. Jeremy Chin over there with safety help as always because we've seen what Williams can do once he picks up speed. And then Sanders, sorry, not Sanders, so Lattimore. Not exactly sure what's going to happen with him or who he's going to be on, but that hamstring, we saw it last week, was not healthy. It was not 100%, nowhere close, because you could tell it hindered him on a lot of in-breaking routes against Mike Evans. And now whoever he goes up against, whether it be Jamison Williams, who has lightning fast speed, who's going to run right past him, or maybe a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown, a very good route runner who could throw Lattimore off of his game this is going to be a tough matchup for him. But I trust Igbenogany against Amon-Ra St. Brown, which is crazy to say. And then Sanders still and Chin against Jamison Williams. So there's that. Also, though, Sam Laporta is on this team. There's just so many ways for this Lions offense to beat you. Sam Laporta is on this team. And even though Laporta hasn't had one of the great seasons or whatever, like he had his rookie year, he's been kind of picking up pace recently or picking up production recently. And he could definitely be a problem in this game. Washington's linebackers, I mentioned it in this pod already, but Washington's linebackers have not been good in coverage. You look at Bobby Wagner, who has dealt with an ankle issue this week. Frankie Louvu is not the best in coverage either. If you put Lattimore up against or Laporta up against Jeremy Chin, then it kind of takes away the safety help that you're going to have against a guy like Jamison Williams. There's so many different ways and so many different problems that this Lions offense creates for this Washington team that, I mean, there one of these guys is going to go off for a big game, and it could be any 4 of them: Gibbs, Williams, St. Brown, Laporta. You're going to have to try and double one of them, maybe, or you're going to have to leave all of them one-on-one, and it's going to be really tough because Not sure how much I like the matchup between Laporta and Bobby Wagner, even though Wagner's been so good, of course, in the run game. But really, you're going to need to pressure Jared Goff with those front four. And Dante Fowler's had a great season. All right. Maybe you get something out of Javonte Jean-Baptiste. Maybe Dorrance Armstrong needs to be involved. And of course, those two up front that we're paying a ton of money for, Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen. Those guys are going to have to deliver in the pass rush and just push Jared Goff back in the pocket. Just make him feel pressure, even though he's been great against pressure this season. Over his career in total, he has not been wonderful against pressure. So if you just make him start over like reacting maybe, and if he throws an interception or two, like this team is going to need turnovers to win this game. If you finish this game without any turnovers, the Commanders are going to lose, right? And I mean, the Lions defense has been great at forcing these turnovers, and even though Jayden Daniels has been great at not turning the ball over, you got to maybe expect that offense to turn the ball over one time. And so if you're Washington's defense, you need to force multiple turnovers in this game. You need to win the turnover battle if you want to have a chance. And yeah, that is pretty much that. So overall, Lions offense, it's going to be hard to stop. Unlike the Commanders offense, which is really Jayden Daniels. You stop him, which is again really hard to do. Then Daniels is kind of their only guy who's leading that offense. You look at the Lions offense, you've got Goff, you've got Montgomery, Gibbs, Laporta, Williams, St. Brown. The list goes on and the ways that the Lions offense can win. And that's what scares me the most in this one is that for Washington's offense, they really only have one way that they've been able to win games over the last few weeks. While for the Lions offense, we've seen them win multiple ways over the last few weeks. So that is not so great in my opinion, but we'll see how that ends up going. But yeah, let's wrap this up. Final score prediction for Washington's divisional round against the Detroit Lions. I told you what was good. I think this Washington offense matches up well against this Lions defense. Told you which was bad. The Detroit offense going up against this Washington defense. But now, again, I already mentioned it. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I trust Washington's offense to score points. Now, for them, it's going to be about converting in the red zone, being able to score touchdowns, which they've been able to do the last few weeks, or especially in the game against Tampa Bay. But I am just very concerned about the amount of weapons that the Lions offense has. There's so many ways for them to beat you. While for Washington, it's mainly all on Jayden, which so far this season it has worked. But down the stretch, I don't know how reliable that will be. Against another team that has a very good offense. Final score on this one, I'm going Lions 36, Commanders 31. I think, like I mentioned at the top of the episode, great teams cover, right? Great teams cover. That is the Washington Commanders. I think this Commanders team really has a shot. I think if I had to put a percentage on it, I think 20%, which 1 in 5 chance to win this game. I would take that against the Lions team that has been the best or one of the best in the NFL all season long. So at 15-2, going up against a Washington team that has won 13 games this season, it'll be a interesting matchup. But I think the Lions pull it out in the end. Now, I predicted Washington to beat Tampa Bay last week. That did end up happening. I'm predicting Washington to lose this week. But again, at the end of the day, I really think that this team's ceiling is pretty much midway through this year. I thought this team's ceiling was one win in the playoffs. From here on out, they've hit in my opinion, I think they've hit their ceiling. But hey, I would not be disappointed. I would not be opposed to them beating my ceiling and winning this game and going to the NFC Championship game for the first time since, 1991, I think. So that is what I got to say about that. But yeah, that'll wrap things up here on Keeping Up with the Commanders. The next pod will be out Sunday morning before breaking down basically Washington's win or loss against the Detroit Lions. Yeah, hopefully it's a win. But next pod will be out on Sunday, and then the following pod will be out on Friday, previewing the Senior Bowl. I'm looking forward to it. Going to be back in Mobile for the second year in a row, being able to interview players and all of that. That'll be a fun week down in Mobile, Alabama. So yeah, pretty much looking ahead. This Sunday's game, Sunday pod will be about Sunday's pod will be about the divisional round. Friday's pod will be about the Senior Bowl. If Washington were to win the game on Saturday and they go to play a game on if they do go to play in the NFC Championship game, that Friday pod will be changed to we'll figure it out, but there'll be a Senior Bowl pod, but there'll also be a preview pod for the Washington Commanders in that NFC Championship game. So that'll wrap things up here on Keeping Up with the Commanders. That'll do it for this week's episode of Keeping Up with the Commanders. See you guys in the next one. Peace.